All right, everybody, we're going to get started. Welcome to the Expedient breakout room. I'm David Burks. I'm one of the senior account managers at Expedient. Happy to be here today. We've had a long time partnership with the Tech Council. We're very happy for the relationship we've got with them and for being here helping the event today. A little bit about Expedient before we bring up our first speaker. A lot of you probably know our name. We've been in the Pittsburgh market for over 20 years, and through a lot of innovative product design and growth of the market that we're in, we've expanded from our initial one data center 10 years ago to 11 data centers in 7 cities. A lot of that is based around, as I mentioned, the growth of the cloud and data center market in general, but also because we've done a tremendous amount of innovation within our product set. We were very early on adopters of VMware and virtualization, and we've been providing infrastructure as a service and cloud services for over a decade now. And the innovative process has allowed us to get out in front of some of the movements in that arena. We spend a lot of time with our vendors in some highly strategic relationships, dealing with and understanding what they're bringing to the market, and also listening to what the clients are after. One of the big products that we've come out with in the last few years that have been super successful is a disaster recovery as a service, which is allowing people to get into full-fledged disaster recovery with, under the right circumstances, with very, very short spin-up times that include taking the network and firewalling and everything else with it. So you've got a true operational instance stood up that all of your employees and your customers can get to in the same way they always got at your production site. That product has been very successful for us. In fact, we're very proud of the fact that 2018 was the second year in a row that we landed on Gartner's Magic Quadrant for disaster recovery as a service, and we certainly enjoy the stature that comes from being one of 10 companies on that Magic Quadrant when there's more than 500 companies out there providing services in that category. One more thing I'd like to mention before we bring up Corey, we are also on the MSP 500, which is, again, a worldwide list of the best MSPs out there. We went from number 10 to number 7 this year, and we are the only company to appear on both of those lists. So things are looking good at Expedient. So without further ado, let me bring up one of our stud product managers, Corey Groan, who's going to talk to you a little bit about hyperscale environments and machine learning algorithms.
Thanks, David. I don't know if I'll be a stud, but I'll do my best. I'm going to stay away from the podium. I'm actually going to come around here a little bit because I want to get closer to you guys. And since you guys are all scared of me, I'm going to come to you. Before I get started, I want to just take a quick show of hands. Who here, everybody in this room works in data as a part of their everyday life. Who here has struggled to integrate maybe data sets that exist in multiple places? A lot of times, we heard about Zoll and how they've migrated a lot of their data out to a cloud provider, and integrating data sets that live often at different cloud providers with sometimes legacy data sets in data warehouses, that kind of thing, on-prem, right? Who's struggled with that as a part of their mission and job? It's a common issue we hear when we're talking to customers. And when David asked me to speak today, I was like, well, we're an infrastructure as a service provider. These are data people. I don't think they really want to hear from me. But I do have one specific example and solution that we do provide and case study that I'm going to share with you that I think we do actually bring a lot of real value to data science for our customers. And we help solve that specific problem. David already talked a lot about Expedient. The way I summarize what we do for customers is we help customers take off of their plates a lot of the undifferentiated heavy lifting that's not really core to their business, right? These days, most folks don't really care to know about the diesel generators that are powering their infrastructure, right? That's not core to your business anymore. And so whether it's diesel generators, whether it's the servers and storage devices, and people don't care about these things anymore. This is the age of cloud. We want to abstract all of that away so that you all can focus on new algorithms, new data aggregation strategies, new things that are actually going to move your business forward. We tell the story about at the turn of the last century, 1900s, we had this brand new thing called electricity, right? And industrialists, people who own manufacturing facilities, were installing all these wonderful new machines in their factories that were able to produce goods at a much, much higher rate than humans could in the past. But these things needed electricity, right, to run. And so what did these industrialists do? Well, they built power plants right next to their manufacturing facilities to power those new machines, right? In 2018, that sounds silly, but that was the reality back then. Why does that sound silly in 2018? Well, because electricity is a utility. It's something that is commonly generated, and it's available and standardized to all of us. And so it just doesn't make sense for most businesses to do the common utility around infrastructure, right? Compute infrastructure. The things we need to do our jobs is fairly standardized at this point, and it's fairly widely available over common public internet networks. And so that's how we like to think about what we do at Expedient, right? We help you get rid of that undifferentiated heavy lifting. Who had heard about Expedient before you saw our name on the agenda today? Okay, so most of the folks in this room. And I'm going to pick on my new friends over here from the Port Authority. What was your impressions of what did we do as Expedient? Right, if you have servers, you want to get those servers out of your office, we can provide a safe, secure place to put those servers and other compute infrastructure that powers your business, right? That was the reality for Expedient for many years, and I asked that question. Thank you for playing perfectly into what I was hoping you were going to say, because that's the awareness and perception of what we do that is pretty prevalent here in Pittsburgh, right? Most folks think Expedient does co-location, and we do. That's a fact. But over the last 10 years, we've undergone a transformation as a business into focusing more on things like infrastructure as a service and managed services. So managed services meaning, again, you don't want to have to maintain your infrastructure that powers your algorithms or making sure that those things are secure and safe. Hiring the people, training the people, all that takes a lot of time and effort and investment by businesses, and so that's what we do for customers. So we do co-location, we do cloud, that's all wrapped up under our cloud services branch, and then finally we do connectivity, and that's what my talk today is going to be focused out on a lot, is connecting at a fundamental layer those data sets that may exist at our clouds, at Azure, at AWS, at Google, wherever they may be, in a way that's a lot easier for you to do your job as data scientists to integrate those disparate data sources. But before we get started with that, again, this is 2018. We all have smartphones in our pockets. So what I want you to do is take your smartphone out of your pocket, go to this website, menti.com, MENTI.com. This is a data science audience. We're going to do a little bit of data science right here, right? We're going to do a live poll of you guys about what are your top challenges in integrating data in your organization to do your job, to integrate the disparate data sets you need to do that job. What's your top challenges? You're going to go to that website and you're going to put in the code 749041. Can you guys see that in the back, those digits? Okay. I see a lot of heads down. That's good. I promise I'm not like stealing your credit card information or social security number right now. This is not some money-making scheme. Dave, can you flip over to the... Okay. Okay, I see about half the heads up. Okay, I think, I'm seeing most of the heads up. So, more data will come in here, but I love this tool because it's a really interesting way for me to get the temperature of the room and for you all to get feedback from your peers about what are the challenges that you're experiencing in your world, right? Number one is multiple different data repositories, often different data formats, right? We heard about healthcare and Zoll with the possibility of sharing data with other peers or competitors in a way that provides greater value for us as the consumers or even for them as the provider. Integrating those in the increased complexity and multi-cloud world that we live in is a big challenge. Uncertainty of formats and API changes. Who wants to talk about, who picked this one and wants to be brave and raise their hand and tell me what does that mean to you? Different API formats. Yeah, go ahead.
It's about when we build new products and you have to integrate with the existing products as well.
Okay.
And sometimes there are new features which the current API can't just support. So
okay.
There'll be changes to the contract, and then all other dependencies also have to change because they're talking to that API.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, vendors, it's an API world, right? But APIs are versioned, and you run into some of the same dependencies and complexity issues that you had when we were just talking about pure software interdependencies, right? Anybody want to add to that answer? Okay. Scalability. So again, that's one of the major benefits of hyperscale cloud providers like Azure or AWS when we're talking about data science is the ability to spin up hundreds or thousands of servers or compute resources to bring to bear on a data set to generate a new algorithm or what have you, right? That scale is essential to what you do in data science. Data currency. Who picked that one and wants to be brave? What does that one mean? Anybody? I know 13% of you did. Somebody picked that one. I'll tell, that to me means, again, we used to deal in a world where we'd produce monthly deliverables, maybe monthly reports, or even annual reports as a part of our job. And that was dependent on data sources that changed, again, maybe monthly or quarterly or something like that, right? And the pace is just incredibly sped up to now where the gold standard is real time. What is the current picture today, integrating all those different data sets together as they are right now at this point in time. And then finally, time to availability. So that's just an interesting survey I like to do. Can you switch back, Dave? So before I get into integrating data sets across clouds, I think this slide is key to that discussion because as David talked about, geographically, and when you're talking about networking and you're talking about integrating data sets and running algorithms and queries across different data sets, ultimately you run into laws of physics, right? What's the latency, what's the throughput, what's the amount of data that I can push back and forth between clouds, and that comes back to geography, right? Unfortunately, in 2018, we still are bound by the limits of physics, and so geography does matter in this situation, right? And so David mentioned we have 11 data centers across 7 different cities. Those are the red dots you see on the map. For those of you, you're all really smart people in the room, so you may be going, wait a minute, Corey, there's more than 11 dots on this map. So you'll also see a few other interesting points. You'll see these light bulbs. And I want to highlight a couple of them. Oops, that one's wrong. But we have what are called points of presence, or POPs. These are locations on the map where physically we have equipment, network equipment, that is connected to our 100 gigabit fiber optic network, which links together all our data centers. We then can hand off physically to other cloud providers like Azure, like AWS, like Google, and others. And we can provide incredibly high speed, low latency connectivity for our customers that are anywhere on our map into those other hyperscale cloud providers, right? So they're doing work, they're building out new algorithms and running data sets out there at other cloud providers. But oftentimes, as those of you who raised your hands at the very beginning of this, you have to integrate those new things you're doing with the existing things you have on-prem, whether that's a data warehouse or some other data source ERP system that you need to integrate with on-prem. And so at a fundamental networking point A to point B layer, we're able to connect our customers to their data sets wherever they may live in the world. Again, in a secure, fast way. So you don't have to wait a long time. Going back to that data currency issue, you don't have to wait a long time to integrate those data sets. So these two key locations are Equinix facilities. Equinix is a huge wholesale co-location provider. So they, again, these companies like Amazon and Microsoft have equipment in racks right next to ours in these data centers, these huge data centers, and we're able to connect to each other and talk to each other at a really fundamental layer. And this is what powers our solution, which is what we call multi-cloud connections. And so as I mentioned, this gives any of our customers the ability to connect their data sets living anywhere on any of our cloud locations to data sets and algorithms and all the new things they're doing out in hyperscale cloud providers. So we have a physical connection at those locations, and through a partner product with Equinix called Equinix Cloud Exchange, within a few hours, we're able to spin up those connections or spin them down to other hyperscale cloud providers, again, at high speeds, 1 gigabit, 10 gigabit, so on and so forth, to whatever our customers need, really, right? And that has a few benefits for our customers. Most customers we talk to today are not just doing work in one cloud provider, right? It's, different cloud providers have different benefits. I specifically mentioned Azure in the abstract for this talk because, a lot of their ML tool set is ahead of the rest. That's one of the few places where Azure is actually ahead of AWS. But again, different projects, you all want to choose whatever tools you like and you know best, and whatever's going to be the best fit for this project, you want to use those tools now, whether they live at Google or Azure or where have you, right? You don't want to be constrained to a certain tool set just because that's the only one we can talk to. And so we can allow our customers to talk to multiple cloud providers all from one connection. So that's really powerful. Again, it's a private connection, so if you're dealing in healthcare data, if you're dealing with financial data or any data that has some sensitivity about privacy, that's key, right? That's another reason why this is a powerful solution for our customers. Again, it's consistent performance, so you're not sitting there waiting, watching a spinning circle at your desk. And this is an example of one of a real customer of ours in the Baltimore, how am I doing on time? Okay. A real customer of ours in the Baltimore area that does, that essentially offers IT services and business analytics services to healthcare providers in the New England area, okay? And they aggregate all that data and those resources with us, actually. They have a presence with us in our Owings Mills, Baltimore facility, and they actually have a disaster recovery site all the way in Columbus, Ohio for all that infrastructure. And they came to us and they said, we love the cloud service that we have with you today, right? The existing applications and data sets we have there, we're not interested in lifting and shifting all of that out into somewhere else because that's a huge project and it may not gain us a lot. But we've also got some cool new stuff we've been developing out there in Azure, right? And just like you're helping us protect the existing data sets and applications that we're running with you today, we want that same level of protection with our data and applications in Azure. And so we were able to connect, again, as I mentioned, to two different regions, two different Azure regions, right? For those of you familiar with Azure, every cloud provider has this concept of regions, right? We were able to connect, again, what they were doing in Azure East and Azure North Central and provide them these dedicated high-speed private connections to enable, ultimately, failover of their workloads in Azure and their workloads at Expedient all to Columbus in the event of a disaster, right? So that's a really cool, powerful story. I don't know too many other folks who can tell a story like that, combining multiple different clouds into one cohesive disaster recovery strategy, as well as a data integration strategy, because they too had data sources on-prem or at their infrastructure with us that they needed to integrate all into one application for reporting or analytics purposes. So I have about 1 minute left. So I have 1 minute for questions. Who has the first question? Anybody? Okay. All right. Well, that's. I'll give you 1 minute back then, and thanks for your time today.